Yo, and hello, everybody. Mike here, baseball collector, and happy Thursday to everybody. Christmas Eve, I guess. Holidays are in full swing. Everybody's running around buying presents and everything. But I wanted to do a video today talking about the state of grading and my opinion on it. And it's not necessarily going to be all roses and daffodils today. I don't, people think I like to be negative. I don't like to be negative. I just kind of call it like I see it. But let me do something really positive first. And that is that I got a note from Tom, who is Vintage Lev. He reached out to me on Instagram and he wanted to send me a couple of things. He's the one that sent me that I bought the Roger Maris auto from back in Dallas. His brother had passed away, whose name happened to be Mike, and they had done some they were autograph hounds back in the day. And so he had several personalized items, one of which was a Roger Maris autograph that I got from him. And he said, I have a couple other things from my brother's collections I want to send you for Christmas. And he sent me a really nice note. So super great of Tom. One of them was this awesomeness. Look at, this is Terry Bradshaw, and it looks like it's a picture cut out of a magazine or something. And the autograph is hard to see, but it's up there on his cowboy hat. I love that Terry's holding his Red Man chew. You know, this is definitely old school. And it says, to Mike, good luck, Terry Bradshaw. You know, that's just awesome. I don't have any Terry Bradshaw, and I do love football as much as I don't collect it necessarily, but I love football. So, and the really awesome thing is this. I don't know what this is, like a team postcard or something. It's from 1982 TCMA. So this might be like TCMA postcards or something. But look at that. Bob Feller, to Mike, good luck. Everybody says good luck. And he signed this, looks like 6/13/1984. God, it's old. It's almost 40 years old. Autograph, but Bob Feller, it's just awesome. It's just so cool. I love getting the to Mike stuff. So thank you, Tom, for that. Merry Christmas to you, friend. And so grading. Everybody here knows that I am a PSA guy. And I'm a PSA guy because that's just what I started collecting. I wish I could tell you there was some other genius reason behind it, but what I found when I started collecting slabs was that I could get, PSA slabs were more prevalent in the hobby. You could find them easier versus SGC and BGS didn't really, they did some vintage, but when I started, they were known for grading, you know, ultra modern stuff, whatever was the ultra modern stuff at the time. And so this idea of, you know, buying multiple companies, I know a lot of guys do that. It's just not for me. I can't handle it with my nature of wanting everything to be the same. I wanted consistency throughout my collection. So I said, all right, PSA, they're it. Okay, great. I like the look of the slabs. I trusted their ability to authenticate a card. This was all pre, you know, PWCC and all that stuff going on, all the controversy and Slabgate and all that kind of stuff. This was way before that. We're talking 2011, 2012. So we're talking a decade ago. And all of that to say, that's where I ended up. Unfortunately, Slabgate happened, a lot of negativity towards PSA. Then you have just backlog, shutting down, all of the things that have happened. And it's incredibly frustrating for me as a consumer, as a customer of theirs, that they're doing what they're doing now. if you don't watch Retro Hoop Collectibles, he does a great job every week, once a week, showing how many cards PSA is grading. And the last month or two, it's probably averaged around 175,000 cards a week. And if we think back to April when they shut down and how big the backlog might have been, I estimated at the time it was probably 10 to 12 million cards. So they shut down, start working towards hiring people, increasing capacity, getting through what they already have. Because if they didn't do, and I think that was the right decision at the time, they totally had to do that. They were going to be completely overwhelmed. They were completely overwhelmed. It was only going to get worse if they didn't take action. So I don't criticize that. I actually think that was the smart move. What's interesting is we're seeing now is they come back with express service at $150 a card a while ago. They graded cards at the National, which I'm grateful for. I got a couple of cards graded at the National. But then it was $250 a card, I think, at the National. And it had been $300 a card for express. $250 at the National. They dropped it to $150, then to $100. I guess express is still $150, but they have a $100 option. And now they've come out with a $50 option to get into a queue for a certain number of blah, 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 whatever. For Collectors Club members, a $50 option. They're getting slowly back to a more economic grading fee, which I think they have to long term. They can't stay at huge prices forever because people are going to start gravitating. And I'll tell you what I think this is. It is an attempt to curb the hobby from swinging over, quite frankly, to SGC. BGS to me is largely a non-player now in the grading market, which is surprising. I think CSG is gaining some traction, gaining some momentum. HGA had an opportunity that they kind of blew to become a major grading card grading player. That's probably the best way to play it. A player in the grading market. And so they're out. CSG is gaining market share. And SGC is doing a great job. And no doubt about it, I have an affinity for SGC just because I know Peter, their CEO, great guy, what they're doing and what they're trying to do and the way they're doing it makes a lot of sense. Honestly, if I could go back, I would do SGC today because I like the new flip. Remember 10 years ago, they had that old flip and I wasn't a huge fan of it. I didn't necessarily like the green and all that. Again, just personal preference, right? It was never a question about their grading ability and for pre-war stuff, they were kind of the game in town, the best game in town for that. Now they're kind of doing everything and I think gaining a lot of market share. So you see PSA coming out with, hey, they're legit. They're a solid number 2 now. And we want to kind of curb that momentum that they might be having by trying to get more people. Oh, PSA is back doing this and just bring more attention back to them. The problem with that is my personal experience. I have 2 submissions through JT, group submissions cards that I sent in through JT that are from December 2020, a year ago. And they are still one of them is in stage 3 and one of them is in stage 4, and they have been there for a long time. You've got all of these people. I mean, we're talking December, so that's a year, right, of cards. I guess you really have until April, so it's probably 4 or 5 months worth of backlog. And you could only imagine how much of that backlog is January, February, March, April, once they decided, they announced it, get your cards in. I'm sure they had a tsunami of cards that came in then. So the backlog is still gigantic. That's my point. And they're doing all these other things on the current stuff that they're wanting to take in, while their backlog is still probably millions of cards. I wish I could really give you a guess, but I would certainly be confident saying it's probably still in the millions of cards that they have not graded from people that submitted, pre-shutdown. And so that just irks me that all that you hear out of PSA is, well, we're continuing to work on the backlog. And then on the other side, through the other side of their mouth, they're saying, but we're lowering prices. We're trying to gain back market share of current submissions. And I think they are largely underworking, I guess. Like they're not doing enough to clear the backlog. That's just going to piss people off over here, that they're going to go, screw it, I'm going to SGC. Because there's a lot of people out there that aren't like me and are happy to take, I just want it slabbed, whether it's SGC or PSA, I don't care. I think there's plenty of people like that. And I think once you get a taste of the SGC experience, a lot of people are going to go, well, screw PSA. I don't know when I'm going to get my cards back. They're more expensive, et cetera, et cetera. If you were starting today and going, I have this card to grade, where do I want to grade it? Just from an experience standpoint, you'd be silly not to choose SGC, honestly. And then you can talk about quality of grading. There's a lot of questions about the quality of grading happening over at PSA currently. And that's to be expected when you add so many people to the mix, new graders, etc. Their experience is low. Therefore, they're going to make a lot more mistakes. And a lot of times they're costly mistakes to the end consumer, because if a card's misgraded on the low end, especially, I tend to think they are undergrading cards instead of overgrading cards. I would argue, and from what I've seen, that I don't think they're giving cards 10s that should be 5s or whatever. I just think it's the other way around. I think cards that are 9s are getting 6s. And I'm seeing that with stuff that Ty's doing on Bench Clear with me, and stuff we're looking at. We're going, scratching our head about things like, this doesn't make sense. In fact, Ty sent several, just as one example, a bunch of Tom Brady stuff into PSA. Because the truth is, PSA does sell for more on the secondary market. And I'll get to that in a second in more detail. But so he sends off a bunch of Tom Brady stuff, including some rookies, and they come back 6s and 5s and 7s, whatever, at PSA. Sends them, cracks them out, sends them to SGC, and they get 9. He's like, these are 9s and 8s and 9s all day long, 9.5s. Sure enough, he sends them to SGC, and they get what he thinks is the appropriate grade for those cards. Remember that all grading is subjective. All of it is someone's opinion, right? What is this card grade? I'll tell you what I think it is today at this moment. It's someone's opinion of the condition of the card. There's very little objectivity to it, other than maybe, you can look at centering and go, okay, this is this. There's still some subjectivity to it. I think as SGC gains market share and the amount of SGC slabs on the secondary market continues to increase, and the accuracy of their grading and the experience that someone gets, you're going to see the gap of value continue to close. You're going to see it continue to converge over time, especially in vintage. I think and that's the world I live in, so I can't speak to it a ton on ultra modern. I'd love people to comment down below. Are they seeing that same thing? Are they seeing on 2020 cards, or probably aren't a ton of 2021 cards out there graded by PSA, so it'd be difficult to comp. But if you look at things during 2020, 2019 stuff, is SGC starting to close that gap? On the vintage side, they certainly are. And it's because they have a good reputation for grading vintage. And a lot of people like that, the way that they grade vintage. So I think, again, and there's guys out there that have been SGC homers for a while. I think of Brian, B-Raw6. He loves SGC. Andrew, Nuff Said Cards, is a big SGC fan. And they have been for a long time. So they're not jumping on some new bandwagon. And that's awesome. Like, again, it's not that I'm telling someone to use one company over another. Use whoever you want. I'm just saying you're going to get two different experiences. There's pros and cons to using PSA. There's pros and cons to using SGC. And you, as a collector, as a person who's building a personal collection, have to decide which of those factors mean the most to you to make a decision. But I just keep going back to this backlog, and I personally am being affected by it as I have cards there. They're not cards I need back anytime soon. It just doesn't make any sense. It's just, why are you just doing all these things brand new to get new submissions, and when you got plenty of cards to grade out in California in your warehouse waiting? Again, cards that have been there a year. It's so frustrating to me. You might ask, well, Mike, are you going to switch over? And the answer is no, I'm not. Well, Mike, you're crazy. Maybe that actually might be true, but I am so into bed. If I could get, maybe I could get Peter to call him up. Hey, I've got 5,000 slabs. Will you take those and cross them over for free? The sad thing is I wouldn't even do like $1 a card to cross them over, because I probably would actually, but it would be so expensive, even at some severely discounted price to cross them over, that it's cost prohibitive for me. It doesn't make any sense at this point. So I am opening my mind up a little bit more to buying SGC slabs. In fact, I did earlier this year. I bought my first one, a Ted Williams 1954 Bowman. It's because it was a gorgeous card and I couldn't pass it up. So I'm not necessarily converting to anything. I would prefer PSA just because that's what my collection is, but that is what it is. So I would love to hear what everybody thinks. I know this was a long, multiple thought video. Your opinion would be welcome down below in the comments. I appreciate it. And again, have a good rest of your week as we head into Christmas. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you guys soon. Keep collecting.